Chris and drugs. A drug is any substance other than food that changes an organism's physiology or psychology when consumed. Much like shoving things up his ass, recreational drugs was something that Chris used to preach against, until he eventually tried alcohol and discovered he loved the somewhat pleasant effect. As of 2021, Chris has consumed caffeine, cannabis, and alcohol. He has yet to smoke a cigarette or try any hard drugs such as cocaine. Chris has also had a litany of prescription and over-the-counter drugs to treat his various ailments. Prescription drugs, psychomeds and other drugs, prescriptions for mental health. Due to Chris's autism, he has to take a variety of prescription drugs over the years. As of 2000, Chris has been taking the antidepressant Paxil for his autism, which increased from 20mg to 30mg after a psychiatric diagnosis. But sometime before December 2009, he stopped taking it, and instead started to take paroxetine, citing Paxil's side effects. Interestingly enough, both have the same chemical composition, meaning both are the same drug with different trade names. If word ever gets out that Chris felt paroxetine didn't have the same side effects as Paxil, know that this is just an example of the placebo effect. It is possible that Paxil/paroxetine side effects include making orgasm harder and increased potential for weight gain. Sometime afterwards, Barb found out about its side effects and switched to fluoxetine. It is likely she switched recently, as she mentioned paroxetine well into October 2017. In that same paper, it is also mentioned that he's taking impiramine for unknown reasons. Prescriptions for other ailments. For the majority of his life, Chris has had cholesterol problems. To combat this, instead of eating like a normal human being and getting exercise, he eats poorly and rarely exercises, while taking Lipitor, a cholesterol-lowering drug. While Lipitor and similar drugs can have a positive effect in lowering the cholesterol levels of those who are taking it, if one doesn't change their lifestyle as well, there will be a little change in the cholesterol level. Chris has taken Lipitor since at least August 2009. He has had some improvement with his cholesterol levels, getting a score of 140 mg/ml. Well, not low, it's not high either. Since Chris is very unfit, it's likely that Lipitor seems to be doing a decent job. It's worth noting that, as Casey and her dad pointed out, he started taking the drug in his 20s, when it and other stains are normally meant for people above the age of 40, and are only recommended for younger patients when the risk of cardiovascular disease is that high. Chris also takes a drug to combat blood pressure, likely a blood thinner, concerning his high-fat diet. It is known that Chris also takes antibiotics for UTIs. HRT. Ever since May 2015, Chris has been taking various forms of hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, to successfully transition. Estrogel. Normally transgender people plan out their gender transitions with doctors to ensure safety throughout the process, especially if they are taking hormones. Unfortunately, Chris did the opposite. In 2015, he acquired Estrogel, a hormone replacement therapy cream meant for postmenopausal women. It is meant to be a prescription only, but Chris got around the requirement to see a doctor by ordering it through offshore pharmacy. Estrogel has health risks, such as fluid retention, weight changes, rise in blood pressure, which is potentially disastrous for an obese person like Chris, and blood clots, and that is when it's applied properly via a small dosage on the arm once per day. He even managed to fail at following the directions on the package. As seen in Estrogel application and vibrating bra how-to, a video in which he slathers the cream onto his stomach like buttering bread. Kim Wilson revealed that he was taking the hormones in May 2015, and Chris mentioned the drug again as late as August 2016. Throughout 2015 to 2016, he repeatedly complained via Facebook posts of feeling dizzy and ill, but failed to connect the dots, and think it could be caused by overdosages of a black market drug without a physician's approval. Proper HRT. At some point in fall 2016, he finally went to a medical professional and was prescribed proper HRT. In his interview with Copper Cab, Chris mentions he also takes the testosterone blocker spironolactone, which he nicknames Spyro the Dragon, and estradiol to assist his transitioning. Alcohol. Background. Like many things in his life, Chris has drastically changed his feelings about intoxicating beverages over the years. Chris once described alcohol as a slow-acting poison in his future message video. He also touched on the subject during Vivajeg's AIM chat, where in line 309 he mentioned he would not go to singles bars because of it, and cigarettes. When asked about alcohol in Mumble Chat 2, he stated that it causes liver dysfunction and likely bar fights and automobile accidents. Chris delivered a particularly effusive tirade in one of his emails to Reggie Phil's army. Also, I bet you probably smoke and drink, don't you? I speak against those as well, since they are tools to speed you to death of cancer, liver problems, bar fights and automobile accidents. Give up the habits, they are beyond gross and disgusting. Discovery and use. Despite his initial feelings about alcohol, a hypocritical video of Chris drinking a Long Island iced tea was uploaded to YouTube on 12th of June 2009, showing us signs that perhaps Chris is willing to throw all his principles out the window when the chance to impress a female arises. The type of cocktail isn't recommended for novice drinkers, due to having a rather strong amount of alcoholic ingredients like vodka, triple sec, rum, tequila, and gin. It's possible that Chris chose it because he assumed due to its name that it was literally just iced tea. Alcohol was mentioned briefly in a video shortly after titled, "I'm Sorry Dude." In this video, Chris makes an offer to treat Logan to drinks as opposed to his past offer of coffee or soda, to those of whom he wanted to get to know. Alcohol was briefly revisited again on camera in Chris's big night out too, where Chris was seen drinking. Chris's first recorded video where he appeared visibly intoxicated was "Bless the Fans, Curse the Trolls." Alcohol began a slow and steady progression in Chris's life. This was made obvious in an email to Regina, where he said, "I've also tasted Mike's Hard Lemonade, Budweiser, Miller, McColby, Samuel Adams, and a couple of others, and I look forward to sampling more varieties of liquor." Budweiser is apparently his brand of choice, based on eyewitness reports from Fridays After 5 and his account of a trip to a bar prior to visiting the game place on 6th of June 2010. Meanwhile, a video from mid-October 2010 showed Chris slugging Kahula straight from the bottle, although he didn't seem to enjoy it too much. When a correspondent in Mailbag 6 challenged him regarding his shift in attitude, Chris replied, "I discourage underage drinking fully. I wanted to try it once for myself." In Mailbag 16, from December 2009, he described his drinking habits in more detail. "I am more of a social drinker. I generally do not spend a weekly amount on drinks. I only drink at like a party or with a friend on a rare occasion." This remark was met with some skepticism from trolls, since Chris has no friends, much less any that would invite him to parties. Even after discarding his original hardline attitude, though, Chris still found new opportunities to get a little preachy regarding the demon liquor. In Mailbag 33, from early January 2010, he remarked, "And alcohol, in responsible, moderate amounts, it can be good for you. Yet I do not support too much of it. As if left unchecked, unresponsible, or unassisted, too much can lead to fights that can lead to a trip to the hospital and automobile accidents." He also, in Mailbag 5, advanced the bizarre theory that drinking while pregnant can provoke homosexuality in the child. In 6th of June 2010, Chris revealed that he had been drinking at a bar before driving to the game place and getting into a confrontation with a mad jerk. Alcohol may be a contributing factor to Chris's declining health. Since his decision to leave the internet and instead seek real-life interaction, Chris has revealed to us that he spent most of his day sitting in bars and playing on his Nintendo DSi. While he once claimed to be a social drinker, it has become quite obvious that he is anything but. Chris's childlike perception of the world is most likely deafening his awareness to the substance's advancement of relevancy in his life. At this point, he may be turning to alcohol for escapism. Also, alcoholism has been proven to be a telltale sign of Peter Pan syndrome, which clearly applies to Chris. In addition, Chris, being the slow in the mind that he is alleged to add raw sugar to his beer on a regular basis. Not only is this unnecessary, but may lead to further problems in the near future. It is obvious that with Chris's current loneliness and depression, his alcohol use may yield repercussions in his life, and it did. In July 2016, Chris, while thought to have been drunk and depressed over a lack of progress on his gender transition, sliced his taint open with a knife, to simulate the opening of a vagina. Alcohol made another appearance in the Cherokee and Champ performance, in which Chris states they had 5 swigs of vodka. The Teen Trin Squad, aged 18 to 19, tried to get Chris to buy them Reeb in 2018. In 2021, enabler Kawhi Sandbag revealed that Chris had told him in messages that he would drink heavily once every few weeks. Even with known accounts of Chris's past alcohol use, this news was surprising and concerning. The holy labels, which Chris had been sending to fans from jail, are expressly intended to be used for drinking non-alcoholic beverages. This is a strange inversion of the Christian rite of Holy Communion, which most Christian denominations celebrate using wine, although some Protestant denominations use non-alcoholic grape juice. Chandler family and alcohol. It is interesting to note that Cole Smithy mentions that Bob and Barbara Chandler met at a bar and acted like a couple of drunken losers. The Chandlers' pre-fire family room had memorabilia from various brewing companies, including Ballantine and Bass, indicating that Chris's family never shared his antipathy to alcohol, even in their old age. Chris's family line has a history with alcohol. Chris's maternal great-grandfather, Robert Pettis Wynn, drank heavily and had a girlfriend during the time he was married. Family stories say he failed to provide even the most basic support for his wife and children. There are others who say he was a moonshiner. In the comic. In Sonichu, Chris refers to beer in all instances as Reeb, which is just beer spelled backwards. He probably thought this little immortan lab was very clever. At first glance this seems odd, until you realise Chris was under the impression that Sonichu was targeted towards children, despite the graphic sex scene in issue 8, and frequent depictions of violent death, and so he feels he must censor any mention of alcohol in the comic. This is a common theme in English translated anime shows such as Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon, particularly those aimed at a younger audience. Possessing or drinking alcohol was also one of the worst crimes to commit in Quickville, and could have led to a $1,500 fine or 10 years in prison. The fact that Chris thinks that 10 years and $1,500 are interchangeable is indicative of his broader attitude towards money. It is also interesting to note that this punishment is much more lenient than the Quickville penalty for homosexuality, and you thought Chris was intolerant. Chris later said in his Rollin' and Trollin' video that his prohibition has since been repealed. Reeb is the drink of choice for the drunkards working at 4centgarbage.com. It should be noted that there really is a drink called Reeb. It's a Chinese beer product produced in Shanghai, though it's doubtful that Chris knew about it. Tobacco. As smoking will eventually cause cancer, and it will. You'll be more likely to get heart attacks, viruses, and your life will be cut drastically short. They don't call cigarettes and cigars death sticks for nothing, other than killing you slowly. If I could, I would take every last ounce of tobacco, put them in a rocket and shoot him to the moon. Tobacco, also called tobacco by Chris, is a recreational drug derived from nicotina plants. If Chris could, he would send every last ounce of tobacco on a rocket to the moon. One of the prerequisites for a sweetheart that Chris has never veered from is that she must be smoke-free. Given his flip-flopping regarding his hatred of alcohol, it is uncertain whether Chris has ever smoked, although he did pretend to smoke a peace pipe for Jackie. In his famous future message of 24th of February 2007, Chris expressed his wish for all tobacco to be shot to the moon. In an ED page from 10th of November 2007, regarding a comment from Christian Weston Chandler's future message video, Chris said he was uncomfortable saying the word tobacco. Chris's tobacco rocket plan was elaborated on in January 2009. I have given thought to sending the tobacco to the sun, but then the smell from all that would emit from the giant star and stink up our galaxy, possibly shortening the lifespan not only our world, but the other 8 planets as well. Chris has also related a dream he once had regarding the risks posed by tobacco consumption. I was in a factory and I watched people lying on a conveyor belt with their mouths full of cigarettes, going through burning ovens, coming out singed, not on fire, then dunked into a huge tank of alcohol and dissolved them to dust like acid would do. And the remains would come out of the factory smokestacks in puffs of smoke and ashes. And another detail, the front of the factory is skull-shaped. Chris's cigarette nightmare. Chris has stated that tobacco and alcohol importation is the most severe crime in Quickville and warrants 10 years imprisonment or $1,500 fine. In short, importing cigarettes is worse than rape, theft, murder, or even being a homo in Quickville. Ironically, one of Chris's own ancestors was a tobacco farmer, according to his death certificate. Cannabis. Chris seemed to have an even stronger hatred for cannabis, marijuana, pot, weed, etc., despite it being hailed as a possible autism treatment. This is evidenced by the fact that, in Quickville, cigarette smokers are only given $1,500 fine, but those who simply possess weed are taken to a maximum security prison. The same place Quickville detains terrorist leaders, as was the fate of Kathleen in the Book 10 replacement. Interestingly, the Jamaican war veteran Inos from the original Sonichu 10 somehow managed to escape this sentence, instead being forced into a soup hotel by Ultra Sonichu. Dialogue indicates that it was because Sonichu believed he was actually smoking tobacco, despite him being high as a kite, unintentionally revealing that Chris may believe that tobacco and cannabis are interchangeable. The fact that wacky tobacco was used as a name for cannabis back in the 1940s and 50s further adds weight to this theory. In true Chris hypocritical fashion, it was revealed by Kim on Facebook that in July 2016, Chris had tried smoking cannabis at OmegaCon, and he was offered it at Impulse as well. Chris confirmed that he did try weed a couple times in a Twitter comment. Thanks. Not totally my thing, that kind of high. The couple of times aside. Under the influence of the idea guys, Chris changed Sonichu's official birth date to the 20th of April, or 420, often celebrated as a stoner holiday. However, given the idea guy's apparent obsession with Nazis and other offensive topics, this could have been a reference to the birth date of Adolf Hitler, or the date of the 1999 Columbine High School massacre. In 2018, Chris smoked pot with the Teen Troon Squad, hanging out at their house to partake. Virginia legalized weed at a state level in July 2021, making it one of the first southern states to do so. However, Chris spent the month hooked on a different vice, which is still very much illegal. Bob! Caffeine. Being an avid Coca-Cola drinker, Chris is no stranger to caffeine consumption, though he curiously denied using caffeine in his autism papers. His heavy soda consumption is likely to blame for his distorted sleep patterns. Notably, the 2014 house fire started after Chris tried to brew a coffee in the bathroom early in the morning, causing a frayed extension cord to spark and set the house on fire. Alright, that's it. That's the end of the video. If you like Chris Chan content, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, see you next time.